We've got an email question to start the show off tonight. And I was hurt on my neighbor's property, but I live in a small town and I don't want everyone to know my business. If I end up hiring a lawyer and going to court, will the details be made public? Charles. Les?
That's not your brother Charles, is it?
It's not my brother Charles. Cause I would hope that he'd actually call me before this and come on LawCall to get an answer. But you know, it's a great question because that's a yes and no.
It is. You know? Well, that's right. It is a yes and no. And the quick answer is not necessarily will everybody know about it, because when you hire an attorney before a case gets to a courtroom, there's always an investigative period. You know, you're dealing with adjusters, you're dealing with defendants. A lot of that stuff, although the depositions and a lot of hearings are considered public hearings, most of the time nobody knows about it. It's not publicly scheduled. You don't really air it out there unless you do something like go on social media.
Well, social media.
Yeah. A lot lot of people like to get on social media and do that. Right. Which that's a whole nother. We could do a whole show on that. But when you do file a lawsuit, it is filed in the public record. You know, we have a public courthouse. We have an open system of justice here. It's one of the founding principles of our country. Really, was to be able to air your grievances and battle your disputes in court, open in court, to where we don't have secret juries, we don't have secret hearings. We're not supposed to have that. So yeah, everything is in the public. And you know, that's one of those considerations that a lot of people talk about, especially like Charles mentioned, being in a small town. You know, word travels.
But when you talk about being open, explain that, because you're not going to have somebody's date of birth or their social security number in the filings. No. But the openness is Charles, whatever Charles's last name was, would be making a claim against a defendant.
Right.
And the particulars of that case are listed in there.
Right. Well, you've got to be able to prove your case, Charles. And you know, this was an incident that happened on your neighbor's property. I'm assuming it's an injury. So there's probably going to be medical treatment. There's going to be medical details that goes along with that treatment you received, the type of injury you had, the details of the treatment you received. And in order to prove your case in a court of law, any sort of an injury case, you have to put that evidence out there for a jury to consider. And that information can make it into the public record. Now, like Chris said, your date of birth, your social security number, your identity type things, that doesn't make it into the public record. But details of your injury, details of your treatment, if you had surgery, if you had any complications with your surgery, if you have any lifelong ailments or permanent injuries, those are things that can be brought out in public. Now, the last time I tried a case, I think we had 6 or 7 people just came and sat in, and I think the majority of them were other lawyers just wanting to come and watch when we try a case.
Legal scholar try a case.
Right. That's right. Yeah, right. So, you know, even though it is open to the public, you really don't get a lot of people that come in here. It's not like TV. It's not like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial and everything. Now, some big type cases can air on court TV, but you know, most of them they don't. So.
Okay, but let's you know, it's a great topic because I'm getting a text right now. What happens if you don't want that to be public? Is there any way to protect yourself from that, like a sealing of the records or something?
You know, certain cases can have records sealed. Usually, when you're dealing with minors, when you're dealing with victims of sexual assault, sexual crimes, you know, there is a civil action that can go along. You know, we've represented people that have been assaulted. We've had people that have been sexually assaulted. There's a criminal case that goes along with it, and there's a civil case that can go along with it as well. And sometimes the details of that can be sealed, but the case is still typically tried out in the open.
But typically, in a general auto accident case, or like Charles's case, a slip and fall or injury at a premise, there's no specialness to seal that, and it's going to be whatever complaint and whatever the answers are, and some of the other discovery that's filed is going to be.
It would be highly unlikely to have just your run-of-the-mill negligence case have anything sealed or hidden from the public in that regard.